Presented by Raytheon, making the world a safer place.
This week on Campaign 2018, election hacking, we examine the various actors that attempt to impact the outcome of elections around the globe. Several countries have built up their cyber intelligence both to protect their own interests and to go on the offensive, among them Russia, China, and Iran. There are even some domestic threat actors here in the U.S.
CNET senior producer Dan Patterson spoke with Andrea Little-Limbago. She's a chief social scientist at Endgame. She discussed her fears entering the 2018 midterms.
All right, so my biggest fear is that we haven't really learned any of the lessons from previous years or from what's going on around the globe right now. And so it could be anything from voter registration sites coming down on the actual election day. We already are seeing a lot of disinformation going on for both sides. And so again, this is something to stress. This is not a partisan target. The bots and the trolls and warriors are focusing on both sides of the aisle.
All right, Dan Patterson is here with us now. Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
So who are these primary threat actors and who are they targeting?
All right, so the number of threat actors, hackers, is almost as broad as the number of vulnerabilities. So it's nearly impossible to be comprehensive about this, but we see everyone from nation states like Russia, China, and Iran to sub-state actors. This would be Cambridge Analytica and other corporations who kind of swipe or misuse data that we put out there on social media. And then we see these hacktivist groups. So in the U.S., we generally think of hacktivists as Anonymous, Lulzsec, New World Hackers, but hacktivist groups are involved in election hacking all over the world.
Where else? Because we know this isn't just isolated to the U.S. So where else are Russian meddlers, trying to interfere with elections?
So Russia has actually been attacking democracies and elections all over the world. We saw them interfere in Brexit. We saw them working in Turkey and definitely in Ukraine, where they kind of honed their influence campaigns along with attacking critical infrastructure. I actually talked to Little-Limbago about this. Let's check it out.
We've seen Russian interference really targeting Europe on the election side. And we've seen Turkey, Sweden, Italy, the Irish referendum. All of those have been under some sort of either cyber attack or information warfare campaign. And so we're seeing sort of that broad spectrum of cyber capabilities, and that's more so stemming from Russia in those cases.
So, Dan, here's a question. Alex Wagner, who's a CBS News correspondent, is also starring in Showtime, Showtime's The Circus, which follows sort of the politics of the day. And in an interview she did with the head of RT, the head of editorial for Russian television, she asks about this. And what they said is, look, propaganda has existed since civilizations began, and specifically U.S. propaganda to influence elections has always existed, specifically in Central and Latin America in the 70s and 80s.
Very true.
So what is different about what Russia and potentially China is doing right now to our elections? Is there any difference?
So they've kind of taken this historical use of propaganda and weaponized it to a degree that we've never seen before, because social media simply amplifies a message far greater than we are able to do with traditional
So it's not dropping leaflets from an airplane and going on Voice of America and spinning propaganda to radio. This is, because of the power of the internet, something far greater as far as a threat is concerned.
Yeah, because you can use social media to propel these influence campaigns, which is really just propaganda at a very large scale, and using these social networks like they're intended to be used, which is why we kind of use ambiguous terms like influence campaign as opposed to propaganda, because what you're really trying to do is not hack that critical infrastructure, but instead hack a brain. Other people call it cognitive hacking.
Well, Dan, as you know, we're less than a month away from the midterms. This is on everybody's mind. So what is the U.S. doing to try to prevent future hacking?
Well, we see DHS has proposed a new cybersecurity agency. We see states like California propose GDPR-like regulations that would protect not just consumer privacy, but voter privacy, and had real consequences that if your voter data leaks, there could be significant penalties for that. And we see social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google all tamping down on influence campaigns. The irony is that we saw right after the 2016 election, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook say, no, it's not possible you could use social media to influence how people think and believe. I only built a multi-billion-dollar company out of that. So of course we see foreign actors using social media, and every single expert I speak with says, look, critical infrastructure, voting machines, phishing, those are all very real threats. The biggest threat is the one we log into every single day on our mobile device, and that's social media.
It is always surprising to me that these big brains that come up with these technology companies usually are caught unawares by how people might use that technology for nefarious purposes. And they go, well, we never thought of that. And it's like, well, how smart can you really be if somebody in Bulgaria or Macedonia can come up with how to use this technology and you can't figure out a way to prevent them from using it?
Well, what's so interesting is that we see marketing agencies here in the States use social media very effectively to do very benign things like market products to us. That we understand and accept. It was inconceivable prior to the 2016 election that Russia or China might set up shop and hire a bunch of people whose job it is to sway elections, not just here in the United States, but around the world. However, that is real, that is happening, and it's going on right now.
You are continuing to cover that, Dan Patterson. As always, my friend, thank you very much.
Good to see
it. For more on Dan's reporting, check out cbsnews.com/election hacking. Our election hacking series continues next week. Dan will speak about global hacking trends. That is next Wednesday right here on CBSN.